Arman Tsarukyan is in a very weird position right now. He is considered to be the number one contender, number two contender, something like that in the lightweight division. Yet when Islam vacated the title, of course, he's not the person that's lined up to fight. We have Charles Oliveira versus Ilia Topuria. There were reports earlier that Arman, actually not even reports, Arman admitted it, that he was offered Mateus Gamrot as an opponent, I think, who's right now ranked number 10, but a phenomenal fighter with tremendous potential. A lot of people thought he was going to be the future champ of the lightweight division. He was offered that as a rematch, and he turned it down, stating publicly that he felt that it was an insult to be offered somebody that low in the rankings, given his current position. So that was the last fight that was offered to him. I think he was asking maybe for like Dan Hooker or something like that. And we shall see what happens. But it's a very weird situation because we have somebody that a lot of people thought could have beaten Islam. Is that good? And Islam is almost considered unbeatable, I feel like, by so many people in the lightweight division. People thought Arman could beat him. So Arman is that good, so good that he has this great spot in the lightweight division, yet he seems to be stuck. And that's what this video is about. Why is he so stuck? Think about it. He was last scheduled to fight in January. It's now end of May, almost June. He still has no fight scheduled on the books, no even potential opponents, at least that we're aware of, that he is lined up to fight. And I think the reason why is because Arman and his team, including the Jaxxon pod, I guess, where he trains, I think one of the issues is they're still clinging to this narrative that he legitimately had an injury in January. That's why he pulled out, and therefore he is still entitled to a title shot or a really highly ranked opponent, etc. Now, whether or not we've made videos about this, Justin has talked about this. He's gone into detail as to why he believes that the injury was not legitimate, and in fact, it was just a failed weight cut is what caused him to miss the fight in January. Look, that was our theory, and that's, I think Justin made a really persuasive, cogent argument in regards to why that is the case. Why, but regardless, we don't know 100%. I think the point is, regardless of what they believe, what anybody believes, I think that Arman at this point needs to just treat it as if it was indeed a failed weight cut, because I think that's how the UFC, and I think that's how the UFC brass in particular are looking at the situation. He needs to act accordingly. Like, for example, I can understand turning down the Gamrot fight. It's like, hey, I just had to pull out for an injury that wasn't my fault. But you have to now, I think that him and his team have to just accept and stop clinging to this narrative that it was an injury and therefore he should still be getting like a number 1, 2, 3 or something ranked guy. Just accept that this is the way the UFC is looking at it, and you need to get back in their good graces. Now, as an example of this mindset as to how they feel and the Jaxxon pod feels and how Arman feels, I pulled up this episode from about a week and a half ago. This episode was released prior to the Ilia versus Oliveira fight announcement, before it was announced that Islam vacated the title and moved up. But this kind of really shows the way that I think Arman and his team still can view the situation. And after this, I want to show a clip from Merab, just a random little comment that he made that exemplifies, I think, the way that the UFC, but also a lot of other folks and fighters view the reality of the situation, what they think really happened. And this is exactly why I think Arman should have taken the Gamrot fight, or should be willing to take whoever, because clearly he needs to get back into the good grace of the UFC so we can finally see what he can do in the lightweight division.
A lot of people have been supporting the podcast. So I was trying to tweet people back saying, thanks for watching. And someone wrote, like, does all of these fights that he won add up to this one, mishap or whatnot, or, getting hurt before the fight? I understand.
You see, they still cling to the getting hurt before the fight. I know, look, they're boys with him. They train with him. Of course, they're going to have to get his back. And if that's the narrative that Arman and his team want to put out there, they got to support it. They can't say like, well, we don't know what happened. Maybe that, you're not going to do that. And I totally understand that. But anyways, he says, okay, hey, and by the way, they do raise a good point here. It's like all the victories he's had. I think Arman only missed weight one other time. With all the victories and everything he's done, does this erase everything? And the answer is no. It doesn't erase anything, but it may be a setback, just like a loss could be a setback. I think it's the same thing. It's like you're not exactly in the same position as you were prior to pulling out of the fight. So you got to do maybe one additional fight to get back into the good grace of the UFC. And if he does that, goes out and smokes the next opponent, everybody will be back on top, right? They always say winning fixes everything.
And it was a big ordeal, but I just don't understand the fact of the whole, we're going to punish you because you got.
I don't think it's a punishment. I think it's
again saying I don't understand the punishment. It's only because you're clinging to this narrative. So I just think you need to stop. You don't have to come back and backpedal and say, okay, fine, maybe it was something else. But you don't need to say that. You don't need to put him publicly on blast. But I think clinging to this narrative or like publicly stating it when so many people now clearly don't believe it, and it obviously seems as though this will make everything make sense. But if you're going to continue down this idea that people are on board with the notion that it was indeed an injury, not a missed weight cut, then I think everything's going to make a lot more sense. But anyways, TJ Dillashaw chimes in, and then Rampage jumps back in at the end. And then after this, I'm going to show the clip of Merab.
Situation. It's an unfortunate situation, right? Because Topuria and Makhachev, that's a big fight, man. There's a lot of dollar signs behind that sign, right? And Topuria is on a rocket ship as well too. So I think it's just an unfortunate situation, right?
I disagree. I think it was a punishment, bro. Dana White hates when people pull out of fights really close to the fight. I really think they're punished because you remember what he said in the press conference. Now he wasn't going to get. Oh, you didn't watch it? No. He said he wasn't going to get him a title shot. It's a punishment, bro. Because that's why one time. That's why I didn't pull out of fights because I knew Dana hated like once.
I mean, he probably should have just pulled out of the fight a lot sooner rather than wait until like last minute. Right? He obviously wanted it so bad. He was like, "I've taken fights, my first title defense ever."
So now TJ goes on and tells one of his stories. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure pulling out the night before makes it that much harder. You've done all the promotion up to that point. Fans probably are entitled to a refund at that point. Who knows how many fans ask for a refund once the main event is pulled. I think the laws vary from state to state, whether or not you're entitled to a refund if the main event is pulled or modified right before the fight. I'm sure it caused a logistical nightmare. And that was a problem. But I think the more important thing is, for example, when Khamzat Chimaev had to pull out of the Robert Whittaker fight, I don't think it was the same situation because it was legitimate. Or at least let's put it like this. At least the UFC viewed it as a legitimate excuse. Now, just to give you an idea of what the reality is, and this is, again, why I think they just need to at least stop talking about it as an injury, I would say, and just look at it through a different lens of probably the way that most people perceive it. And as an example of how most people perceive it, we have this clip of Merab talking about Arman, and he's not really even trying to throw any shade here. It was just a quick little comment he made, but I think it shows the reality of the situation and the actual public perception and fighter perception of what truly happened in January when Arman had to pull out at the last minute.
You can order online, namo.com, and
he's talking about, I get Khinkali. It's like this food or something. He started a place, and I don't know if it's a restaurant or they deliver these things, but it's like these little bun things. So anyways, they're talking about that. I think it's a Chinese food that Helen Yee is familiar with, so they're chatting about it, and then you're going to see when Arman comes up in a second.
They will bring the home. It's in the freeze. Yeah.
What's the most amount of Khinkali you've ever ate at one time?
20 Khinkali. 20.
You know, Arman Tsarukyan, when I interviewed him, he told me he could eat like 30 of them. Did you really eat 30 Khinkali the other day?
Of course.
Really?
I mean, like, when I was 2 years old, I started eating Khinkali. It's like every weekend we eat Khinkali.
Yeah. Do you know how to make it?
No, my he knows how to make it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And he does the best Khinkali in the world.
Wow. That's why he missed the weight.
Like, look, he's joking. I get it. I know he's laughing. Maybe he means it sarcastically. Maybe he's like, yeah, that's what everybody thinks, you miss weight, but he didn't really miss weight, and it's just like an inside joke. I don't know, but to me, this seems like the fighter perception as to what really happens. This is what Justin thought too, and Justin explained the whole thing. We made a video months and months ago as to why he thinks that happened. Anyways, my point is, I think this is what's holding up Arman, unfortunately, because yeah, if the reason was legitimate, it was actually an injury that you could not fight through, that'd be one thing. But obviously you could tell from Dana's comments that that's not what he believes. Whether or not that's what happened, it's not the UFC's perception, it's not Dana White's perception, and I think you just got to accept that and act accordingly. Who am I to say I'm not a fighter, but this is just my thoughts, just using my logical brain as to I think what would make sense going forward. We want to see Arman Tsarukyan back, whether or not it was a weight miss, whether or not it was an injury, regardless of all that. He might be the best lightweight right now in the division. He might be the guy that could beat Charles, and he has beaten Charles, but beat Charles and beat Ilya, beat everybody on the list, especially now that Islam has vacated the title. So we want to see him back in the mix. It would be very exciting, and I hope he takes whatever fight is offered next, gets the win, and I guarantee you he's going to get that win impressively, and he'll be back on top. So that's my 2 cents. Those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Do you guys agree, disagree? And I'll see you in the next video. Take it easy.